welcome again to Vonnie in the City. It's Tuesday, October the 15th, and today is Breast Cancer Day. I know we celebrate Breast Cancer Month all October, but let's spread a little bit of love on Breast Cancer Day. So on my social media pages, I actually put on there that it is, I wanted people to tag other breast cancer survivors. So we're going to check in a little bit, and I actually have a gift for a special someone, guys. So if you haven't already, please do so. Tag a breast cancer survivor that you know has been through the rigmarole and made it through. We just want to shout them out, show them some love, make them feel special, all that kind of good stuff. But anyways, hello to my great co-host, Mr. David. And
hello, thank you.
Hello to my special guest today, Raquel. Hi, Raquel.
Hello, Siobhan and David.
How are you, dear?
Hello.
Doing well.
Thank you.
Came out in the rain to join us.
Yes.
Thank you.
Of course, wouldn't miss it. Rain, sleet, or snow.
That's what I like.
What? It was coming down hard earlier, and I was like, ooh, this is going to be too much. It's like raining buckets. I'm going to have to call Raquel and tell her, don't come out in the rain and leave those babies at home.
She's a real trooper.
But I'm glad you made it. Thank you for coming here.
Thanks for having me.
How was everybody's weekend? How was your weekend, David?
My weekend was good. It was entertaining as always. Got a little house improvement work done. So yeah, that's what I'll be doing the next couple of weeks on the weekend, is just doing small home improvement, do-it-yourself projects. So I actually just bought a home recently in Duluth. So lots of little things to do, nothing major, but that's what I usually do on the weekend. So this weekend, got a TV hung, and then I tried to hang floating, what is it called? Floating shelf.
Shelves.
Yes, thank you for that. Floating shelf, yes. It didn't go as well as I wanted it to. There's a lot of holes in the wall, but the hanging shelf is still not up. Okay. So that was my weekend in a nutshell. It wasn't that fantastic, but got a little work done. So.
Well, how about you, Raquel? How was your weekend, dear?
It's pretty good. You know, I mean, obviously, as a new mommy, I've dealt with a lot of breastfeeding. But
okay. The babies were fed, right?
Gotta make sure the babies are fed.
Yes, but I did go out to celebrate my birthday on Friday night, so that was a good time.
My Libra sister, yes. Happy belated again.
Thank you.
Oh, that's exciting. Now, do you have anyone listening today you want to say hello to, shout out, all that kind of good stuff? Or nah, we're going to act like they're not listening? I'm kidding.
I don't really like them that much, right?
Nobody specific, but you know, I mean, I appreciate anybody who tuned in to listen and learn a little bit about real estate, and hopefully you guys will learn some things that can be implemented and lead to some generational wealth.
Absolutely.
I like the sound of that.
Well, before we go any further, I have a few people that's logged on to Facebook Live. Hello to you all listening. We appreciate you tuning in every week. If this is your first time, thank you for joining us. If you're a regular, welcome back. And as always, I have to remind you guys, please download the app, because that's how we get your ratings. So we want to make sure that Vonnie in the City is #1 on the internet radio.
#1.
So, you know, if you either download the app or stream via the web, www.hits923atl.com, that will be how you can listen to the whole show every week, every Tuesday, 6 p.m. But anywho, I'm going to move right along. Actually, I'm going to share with you all Raquel's bio. You can also follow us on Vonnie in the City to find her social medias, to connect with her, all that kind of good stuff. But again, thank you guys for listening.
Yes.
So again, we have Raquel Obumba here in the house today.
How do you pronounce your last name again?
Obumba. I said it correctly, right, Raquel? Okay.
Very nice.
Raquel is co-owner and the managing broker of Millennial Properties Realty, where she not only assists clients and their real estate needs, but also she provides broker support to Millennial Property Realty realtors operating under the firm's name. Millennial Properties Realty is a full-service real estate brokerage firm providing buyer, seller, and investors representation. The goal of Millennial Properties Realty is to help clients create generational wealth through real estate. Raquel holds an undergraduate degree in economics from Spelman College and master's degree in urban planning from the University of Michigan. Raquel is married and has 3 children. You guys, make sure you show her some love. Make sure you follow her. Follow Millennial Properties, guys. Get you a house.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We were talking last week when we were talking about realtors, and I think we were saying a lot of times people tell you after the fact that they're looking to buy a house. This is your opportunity, listeners, to get in on the ground floor. Call her, contact her before you buy a house. That's what we're pushing for.
Don't say, well, I just bought one.
Exactly. You should have told me a week ago. No.
Well, you need another one, right?
Exactly. Never can have enough.
There's never enough houses.
Absolutely.
Well, as always, before we get into the nitty-gritty, I know you all are tired of hearing, but I'm going to remind you all again, my favorite high school. As you all know, I'm a graduate of Jonesboro High School.
Where again?
And I'm just super excited. I'm so proud of them because the current marching band is going to Chicago for the Thanksgiving Day Parade, you guys. So I'm so excited. So that's the second largest nationally televised show or Thanksgiving parade in the country. So I'm super excited for them. They almost hit their mark. Did you see my post?
I did see your post. They're almost there. Now they just need the small stuff, and I know everybody can chip in and help cover the gap with that.
They needed $56,000 to move the band, Raquel. $56,000. Wow. It's almost 100 of them in the band. So I was worried. I was like, please don't let these babies not be able to go because of money, you know? But they are almost there. They're raising money for their hats and gloves right now. That's about it. I was like,
very impressive.
I was so happy
very
for
impressive.
them. So they came on the show, I think it was late July, maybe early July, and they were so awesome. The whole drum line is all girls.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Girl power.
I know. I was like, you gotta do that.
Absolutely.
But they've been doing their little media tour, going everywhere. So I was so happy that they made Vonnie in the City one of their stops. So I promised that I will make sure that every week until Thanksgiving, I will shout them out and ask people to please chip in however they can. And like I always say, I'm just really thrilled for a few reasons. Because a lot of you that live on the South Side, you may have heard that Clayton County didn't get the best of rep. You know, they were kind of going downhill and all that kind of good stuff. Well, guess what? They're doing some things, guys. They're doing some positive things, so we got to show them some love. You know, we're quick to talk about the babies when they're out there doing craziness. So they're doing some positive stuff.
We need to promote that just as much.
And support it.
Agreed.
Yes. Their mock team has been like #1 for 4 consecutive years, but they also made it to state after that.
That's impressive.
Yeah, and their track and field team has been phenomenal. So you guys show them some love. Let's keep encouraging them. Exactly. So I'm super excited.
Good deal.
And on top of that, most of these kids have never left the metro area, so this is huge for them. And let's also keep in mind that they'll be gone on Thanksgiving Day, away from their family. So their director, shout out to Lionel Goodwin, he wants to make sure that they have a phenomenal Thanksgiving Day
Thanksgiving
dinner.
to remember. Absolutely.
Yes. So he's really going above and beyond. This is his 3rd year there, and he's just, really showed up and showed out for the kids. Not just, let's just get the A and let's do the bare minimum. He's had them performing all over Clayton County. Like, everybody knows their name now. So
yes,
I'm
it definitely got listeners. Same here.
That's awesome.
So I'm like, yay, go Cardinals. But yes, you guys, make sure you follow them on Instagram. It's Jonesboro Cardinals _MMC. That stands for Majestic Marching Cardinals. Or you can visit their website at www.jonesborommc.com and learn where they're going to be next, how you can come out to support their fundraisers, donate, all that kind of good stuff. And the other thing I always say, I'm just super proud that they're just not on the side of the corner with a bucket.
Absolutely.
They're working for their money, and I support that,
Same here.
Yeah, I feel like we're always, I don't know, what are we really teaching kids to stand on the side of the corner with a bucket? Teach them to earn their money. They're doing bake sales, washing cars, they're performing, they're doing whatever it takes to earn their money, and they are there, y'all.
I was about to say, it's getting them where they want to be, so
Exactly,
they're doing something right.
Absolutely, absolutely. Hi again to everybody watching. Thank you all for tuning in. You are listening to Hits 92.3, the real definition of internet radio. You're live with your girl Siobhan Noel, and this is Vonnie in the City. And again, my special guest Raquel, my amazing co-host David.
That's me.
I'm so glad to have some company today, y'all.
Absolutely, almost full house.
I know, right? Well, awesome. And thank you all for downloading the app, because again, that's how we get your ratings. So we have a few other topics we're gonna talk about, but I want to get into the real estate talk. I want to talk houses today. So let's start with my first topic that I wanted to kind of touch on. I hear, I talk a lot of different things or different topics on social media, but I hear a lot of people feeling like, and I don't know if it's just the millennial generation, but they're like, well, purchasing real estate isn't really the path to go on. And I'm like, well, we're going to get a professional in here, and she's going to read y'all your rights and tell them,
set y'all straight on where y'all going wrong.
And a lot of people have talked about the book and the whole concept of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I think it's a huge misconception, because he speaks about, you know, a house not being an asset and it being a liability because it being the house you live in. And that doesn't mean don't purchase. That means, you know, if you can maybe get a duplex or a triplex and make an income, or at the end of the day, you know, you're not renting forever. But
exactly.
I'm going to be yapping all day. I'm going to let Raquel talk, because I'll be talking all day, right? Tell us your perspective and what you think about that concept, Raquel.
So real estate, well, let's start with land. Real estate is obviously built upon land. We're not getting any more land.
Right.
So
that's
true.
scarce.
So it's a scarce resource.
Right.
So meaning once it's gone, it's gone.
Right.
So if you can own a piece of that, why not? You know?
Absolutely.
But one thing to consider, as far as assets and liabilities go, I do consider a home completely an asset. I mean, I can give you a prime example. My husband bought the house we currently live in 2010, and granted, that was at during the economic downturn. At this point, we've heard the news that the market is up at this point. It's considered to be a seller's market, which means that sellers are going to have the advantage at this point. But we were able to refinance our home, pull out money to then buy another house.
Okay. That's impressive.
That was 9 years later.
Okay.
So
it doesn't take long.
It doesn't take long.
Look how quick that was.
I mean, and literally we turn our heads, we're like, wow, it's been 9 years already that we've been in this house, and then we had enough equity to pull out to, one, do improvements on our current home, and also invest in another property.
A friend of mine did the same thing, so that's a strategy. Hopefully I'll be able to do the same thing in a couple of years, but a friend of mine did that same thing, basically purchased the house, sat on it for a couple of years, and then was able to pull equity out and get a second property. So I think what you're saying is that's one route with real estate to build wealth.
Correct. And if you're not quite ready, because I've heard several times, well, I don't know how long I'm gonna be in this city, and I don't know how long I'm gonna be in this job.
That's a great point.
But at the end of the day, you can still buy another house that's not your primary residence. You can still choose to rent your apartment, townhome,
Right, you don't
house.
throw it away. That's what I tell you.
But go buy another house.
Yes.
Right.
And then another aspect.
Don't stop at one.
Exactly. Another aspect to consider is you don't have to purchase a loan. So, I mean, there's obviously, we hear the negatives, oh, you don't get you a cosigner on a car, but you can get you a cosigner on a house.
Okay.
If there's some financial or credit issues that, may just need a little bit of boost with that person.
Right.
But also another thing to consider is partnering. So I can say, well, I have $10,000 in my bank account. David, do you have $10? Siobhan, do you have $10,000? That's $30,000.
If me and 20 of my friends got together, we would have $10,000. But me, myself, no. But all of us together, partnering.
You look like you had
partnering, no. All of us together, we could probably get that together. But partnering is a good idea. Do you know people that kind of go that route? Like a lot of people go in on.
Not necessarily a lot of people, because I don't think that they consider that as an option.
Okay.
So
do you consider it an option?
I definitely consider it an option.
Okay.
And maybe not necessarily 10 grand. Let's say maybe 5.
Yes.
Like
Keep
that.
going down. I'm getting more and more comfortable in that range.
You'd be surprised how easy it is to get the other 5, though. You'd be surprised the money we spend and not even realizing.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So just a couple months, like less than 6 months, you can get the other 5 and have that 10 grand really quick.
Yeah.
But also too, let's say we can also split it into percentages. You know what I'm saying? So you can be a 15%, and we can make up the difference. So you can just be that part investor.
Okay.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be everybody
I could be the
shares.
Small minor investor.
Partner.
Exactly.
Yes.
The silent minority partner. I like that strategy.
And your situation may change throughout the span of owning that real estate.
Yes.
You know, because obviously if you're able to pull some equity out, then you can make another investment and hopefully maybe get another return on that investment and kind of keep it in a cycle of investing.
Yeah, my siblings and I just purchased a house last month, so we had talked about on and off like pooling together and getting kind of a rental property. So it sounds like you're the person to talk to. You have a lot of insight on that. One thing that we were looking at a couple of months ago is and I wanted to ask your opinion on this, Birmingham real estate market. There's a lot of property for sale in Birmingham in the surrounding area. And I saw online, there's a lot of for instance, quick deed property. What's your opinion on that? Are you familiar with it? Would you recommend it? Is it a good strategy? If we had, because in the reason that it was a little attractive is because there's so many properties that were going for between $5,000 and $20,000. You can own a house like a fixer-upper. So if we had the money today, would you recommend that strategy? Would you say definitely do not go that route? Here's a better investment. What do you think of that?
Honestly, I come from the school of I own real estate. So however that looks, again, for your particular scenario. So if you guys have that money and you guys are interested in the Birmingham market, then why not? I mean, you may have to sit on it if you don't have the cash to renovate it. But depending on the state of the property, you might be able to rent it to somebody in the interim while you're building the money to make that the renovation. So I'm not too familiar with the Birmingham market and whether or not I can say, quote unquote, that's a great investment or not. I don't want to make that call. But again, you have to find your end. Again, if you have $5,000, figure out how you can make that $5,000 work for you in real estate. There's another option to consider too is tax liens. So every year somebody, for one reason or another, is not paying their taxes. And purchasing a property through a tax lien is an option as well. You may not always end up with the property depending on if that owner pays their taxes, but that's a way to get a property.
So how does that work? Can you elaborate a little bit on how that works? Like, do you pay and then wait to see if they pay the back taxes, and then if they do you get your money back?
You get your money back plus a percentage.
Oh.
Exactly.
Okay, so it sounds like a win-win. I'm interested in scenarios like that. So basically, I either get the property or I get my money back if they pay it off.
Correct. So they have a year. They have a year from the date that you purchase their taxes to pay it off. If they don't pay it off within that year, then you can start the process of claiming that property as your own. Now, it is kind of a process to go through. It's not like on day 366.
It's not a quick process, but it's more of a long-term, I guess, a year-long strategy to see if you got that property or not.
Correct.
Okay.
So let's talk about some of the more common purchases, or for people that are your everyday person. How, if I don't have money and my credit is not where it needs to be, what should I do? I have to rent forever?
Call back in 5 months.
Or
call back when you get your credit score up.
I pay my rent on time, and
and that's great.
That's a good start.
To pay your rent on time.
So you're not living on the street yet. You sound like you're pretty close though.
But I mean, so you do need to have decent credit. I don't want to say you have to have excellent credit to buy a house. You need to have decent credit. You need to have decent debt to income ratio.
Okay.
So what that is the amount of debt that you owe each month. The lenders are going to look at that to say, okay, what is the perfect algorithm or the perfect amount of money that Siobhan or David can afford, and that's how they're going to generate your pre-approval. So they're going to, but one thing to consider, and I hear it so often, is, Raquel, I can't buy a house because I have student loan debt. No, you can still buy a house.
Okay.
Yes.
Because what the lender is going to consider is your monthly amount, not your total amount. So you may be sitting on $250,000 worth of student loan debt, and it may seem overwhelming, and it probably would be overwhelming to have that much student loan debt. But they're going to say, okay, well, they're only responsible for $1,000 a month of that. So that's what they're going to factor into how much you can get a pre-approved for.
Gotcha. Okay.
But one of the things that I always suggest that people do is actually just talk to a lender, because the lender can help them coach them through what they need to do. Because again, you have your notion, well, I need to get my credit together, I need to get these debt down, and I'm not saying you don't. Go ahead, but again, you may be closer than you think.
Yeah.
And so rather than waiting that extra year, you can only maybe have to wait 3 months.
Yeah, that was the case with me. Go ahead. Did you?
Now, what do you think about the different programs that coach you through them? Do you think that those are good? Like, let's say NACA. Or I even heard of another one, and I can't think of the name at the moment, but there's a lot of coaching programs. Do you think that that's a good avenue, or is it a waste of time, or is it like you can just fix your credit and go about your business? Like,
I paused just because it really, again, the different programs exist for a reason. It's worked for some, it may not work for others. So depending on your situation, depending on your patience level and your discipline, again, and it depends on the scenario. So if you're working with a 300 credit score, well, we might need to,
you may need a
whole
work.
lot of programs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But if you're at like a 520, you can probably get that boosted up pretty easily.
Okay.
But another thing to consider too is, as far as not having money per se, I mean, you need to have a little bit saved. I would suggest between $2,500. If you have that saved, you can probably get a house.
Okay.
Now, there are, the common person who just wants to purchase a home that they want to live in, there's also down payment assistance programs that are out there. Now, they are income based, so depending on how much money you make will determine if you qualify for those programs or not. But those are options. I know of one right now that's providing $15,000 of forgivable, and I put the emphasis on forgivable because you get $15,000, and if you live in the house for 5 years, that $15,000 just disappears.
That's awesome.
That sounds like a great plan. You sound like you have a lot of insight, and you made a good point a couple of minutes ago about like syncing up with a lender sooner rather than later, because that was probably one of the pivotal things for me in my house buying process. So once I got with a lender and they basically said, this is where you are, we were able to kind of game plan and map out the quickest way, the most efficient way to get from where I was to where I wanted to be.
Correct.
So, if you don't know where you are, if you're interested a little bit mildly, probably speaking with a lender is probably the first big step to get you on that road to success in owning a house.
Correct,
so.
because there's no perfect algorithm. I mean, again, I'm not a lender, but because I've done this for 13 plus years, I can kind of, you have how much, and I can kind of calculate about the percentage that you need to be for the debt to income ratio. But again, that lender is going to give you that. Are
there specific lenders that you would recommend that you've worked with before?
Yeah, I have definitely did. I'm gonna challenge you to reach out to me for that information.
There you go.
Yes. But I definitely have ones that I've recommended and have worked with several times, and they'll get you definitely from that pre-approval to that closing table.
Now, go ahead and plug in your social media handles, your website, all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, how do people get a hold of you?
So people can get a hold of me at Millennial Properties Realty on Instagram and at Millennial Properties on Facebook. And our website is Millennial Pros, and that's PROS realestaterealtors.com.
Okay, awesome. And we'll repeat that again. So you guys make sure, you should anyway, when we have shows like this, guys, have your paper and pen out, because we are giving you resources, valuable information. We want to make sure that you get everything you need. We have fun, we laugh, we talk, but we like to give resources too on Vonnie In The
Absolutely.
City. You guys are live with your girl Siobhan Noel. You're listening to Hits 92.3, the real definition of internet radio. We have Miss Raquel Alumba in the house today, my amazing co-host, David Jones.
Hello,
And
hello.
we are talking real estate, guys, and I'm loving it. I love real estate.
I am too.
Go ahead, David.
No, with kind of my thought process when I went through the house buying process a couple of months ago is I kind of had a mental checklist of things that were important to me from your perspective. If I'm a prospective buyer, what are things that they should look for in their realtor? Like, what are questions they should ask themselves? What are questions they should ask you? What are good qualifications and a good starting point to have that conversation? Like, for instance, should they say, I'm going to pick a realtor based off of, how much they're charging me to sell my home or get me in a new home? Like, what questions are important?
So, and again, I mean, I always go back to every situation is unique. So there's some, I can say, if you vibe with that person. So when you're on the buyer side, I mean, at that point, the seller is the person who really pays the realtor. So,
I was
again,
going to ask you to explain that.
yes. So again, a buyer but looking to buy a house does not have to, and I'm using air quotes, I know you can't see that
Now-
on Facebook Live.
Yes.
To technically pay for the realtor. So the money comes from the seller side. But what I say on that side is really, do you vibe with that person? Because again, you're going to be spending a lot of time together looking for houses,
Yes.
and you don't want to, oh my God, this person's here again, and,
Yeah.
and then vice versa. With the same with the realtor. If you don't think that buyer's ready, it is not going to work, because again, the realtor wants to make sure that they're not wasting their time,
Mhm.
and again, vice versa. You want to make sure that as a buyer that they're going to get you to the closing table. From the seller's perspective, I would say focus on what type of marketing they're going to be doing for your property.
Yep. So my realtor, I did, because I had nothing better to do, spent a lot of time looking through the contracts when they were getting sent over. So I think in my case, I don't know if it's unique, but my realtor got the same percentage, which was, I think, about, I don't know if she's watching, so I won't say, but I think she got around the same percentage, the same as the selling realtor. So it was interesting, and kind of my frame of mind, and I did kind of realtor interviews because I went through a few trying to find a good fit. So some things that were important was, they knew the area. So I was looking in North Georgia, like Duluth, Cumming, that area, and a couple of the realtors didn't live in the area. And for me, that was a factor, because I figured, I felt like it may become an obstacle if they had to come from this side of town all the way over there to show a property. So that was something that was important to me, that they knew the area, things like that, their references and stuff like that. Those were a couple of things that were important to me when I was looking.
You were very thorough.
It was an interview process, because I'm paying her, so she's not paying me. It's something that she's getting.
Paying her, David.
No.
You didn't hear Raquel just now, did you? Tell them again.
Tell me again. Yes, I missed that part.
So I said, from the buyer's perspective, the buyer is not responsible for paying the realtor, and in typical scenarios. Now,
Okay.
again, if
Did you just
If-
pay her out of
No,
pocket?
I didn't pay her out of pocket, but she got a percentage of
From the
what
seller's
I was.
home that
Yes,
came out of
yes,
the seller's
yes.
pocket, not
Yeah.
your pocket.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. I feel better now.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
I feel a lot better now. Okay.
But
Good deal.
I mean, you did a great job. I mean,
Yeah.
Thank you.
But also too, again, it's all about network too. I live in Ellenwood, Georgia, but I've sold houses in Lawrenceville.
Yeah.
And again, depending on, that was just a connection. That particular person said, Raquel, I want you to represent me. And yes,
Yeah.
I had to drive from Ellenwood to Lawrenceville, but again, we made it work. And again, if I try to hone in on specifically what my buyers want,
Yep.
and that helps a lot. Because at the end of the day, we can go tour the area. I may not be as familiar, like to say, like, oh yeah, if you off of memory, if you turn right at that street, then that's where the Kroger is, or that's where the Publix is. but I can still sell you a house.
Because you're going to look online anyway.
You're going to
the internet
online.
That's true.
is her resource. And at the end of the day, that realtor around the corner might be way busier because she's a multi-million-dollar producer and she don't have time for that $200,000 house. So not saying that's what yours costs or whatever the case is. So, look at a lot of different things. Be open-minded to the situation. Well, like we were talking off air, I think referrals is the best way.
Yeah.
Someone that
she came through a referral.
Yeah. Okay, so that's perfect, ideal. Someone that has used them, and that way they can say, well, they were educated, they made sure that I got the things that I needed, my home inspection, my whatever the case is. I had a girlfriend, and I'm looking at her like, now I've worked in real estate for 10 years or so. You went and bought a house, and now you're crying because they didn't insist that you got certain things. She didn't get a home warranty and things like that. Now it's not required, but they would recommend it. And so she was stuck paying a $10,000 repair.
Wow.
Almost, let's say, 6 weeks or so after she bought her house.
That's terrible.
So I'm just like, so
And again, we can't make any guarantees. I mean, at the end of the day, tomorrow is not promised to no one. And again, I could walk. I mean, knock on some wood. I could walk into my house today and the water heater could burst.
Absolutely.
You don't know what you don't know. But I mean, at the end of the day, you want to try to be as thorough as possible.
Right.
If someone approached you and they kind of this was their perspective and they said, I can look at properties online. There's a lot of services where I can just go put the do the application and get into the house by myself without a realtor. And they said to you, basically, what value are you bringing to the table versus me doing it myself? How would you answer that? What value do you add to the equation where you're necessary in it's, basically versus the option of just cutting out the middleman and it's just me and the person selling the house?
So I would say, one, I have the expertise to negotiate and the experience to negotiate. Because some people will say, and I try to give perspective. So again, so I have people, well, I want to come in $10,000 under asking price.
Yeah.
Okay, we can do that, but you may
Not
lose the
gonna
house.
win it,
Again, and you can do that on your own. You can come in at $10,000 under the asking price, and then you're going to be competing.
Yeah.
So it's little things of knowing the what to do. So when I call, I say, hey, are there any offers on the table? You wouldn't probably think to ask that.
And even if I did as an individual, they may or may not tell me.
Correct. I mean, again, it's a trust factor too, because again, I'm not going to give you my code to the lockbox because I don't know who you are.
Right.
I don't know who you're going to give it to, but as a licensed realtor, you can find me.
Right.
If I go open a lockbox right now, my Raquel Lumumba is going to be logged into that lockbox and say that I opened that lockbox. So should anything go wrong with that house,
they know where to look.
It can track it back to me. But again, if you're Joe Blow off the street and then you steal all the copper out the house.
And then also, I would say, ask them, do you have any experience in negotiating contracts or, representing yourself? Because at the end of the day, you're going, it's almost like, I like the analogy that I hear people use. Would you represent yourself in court without an attorney?
They say only a fool represents himself, right?
Right.
A fool for a lawyer.
That's what you're hiring your realtor for, is for representation.
Yeah.
And people I feel like they get kind of scammed almost when they walk into new subdivisions because they're like, well, they have plenty of realtors right there, but guess what? Those realtors work for the seller,
and they don't represent
you, so they're not working in your best interest.
Are there some realtors that kind of do work for both, basically, like they work for the
Most
now do they
realtors
get paid twice?
Yes. But guess what? That's like having an attorney representing the defendant and the right.
The
so
other.
That doesn't make sense. So you can do it. You can
It's
go
just not
there
recommended.
without a realtor. Can you get a house? Absolutely. Would you have gotten the best deal? Maybe not so much. Is it worth, you know what I mean? Like,
but again, from that buyer's perspective, since it's not technically coming out of your pocket, I would highly recommend, even with new construction, to make sure you have representation, because at the end of the day, all of us are busy.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you're in a position that you're able to buy a house, that means you're likely working. It means you likely have other things going on, social life and all that. So, but unless, I don't want to talk about everybody's lifestyle, but if you have the time to do all that,
more power to you.
Exactly. But a lot of the people I know, they appreciate that I can coordinate and I can get people moving and keep things moving so that they can know that they're still going to get to that closing table while they can still maintain their life.
that's a huge benefit.
And so many things that could possibly go wrong, and you don't even know about the due diligence periods that you have, and to get your earnest money back potentially, and just so many nuances that you just don't know as a
there
consumer.
were absolutely speaking for my realtor, there was 101 intangibles that she brought to the table that I never would have thought about. Everything from, oh, you really don't want to buy stucco because the resale value is lower, to neighborhoods that were things were selling like hotcakes. There were a lot of really small things that I never would have thought about that she brought to the table that basically were valuable at the end of the day for me. So finding someone knowledgeable and having a good relationship with them, she steered me away from a lot of bad properties, which was fantastic. It was a huge benefit.
Now that's a bad word in real estate, David. Steering. No, I'm kidding.
Really? I will tell you. She had to go.
Him.
She gently guided me away, because my thing was I would call her up, or I would text her and say, Jeanette, like, there's a property over here that I want to go look at, and she would like, do you really want to go look at that one? Like, I think we should just wait. There's some better properties that are going to hit the market soon.
You got to be quiet before you get Jeanette in trouble. No,
no, she was.
And part of it too. I mean, and I don't know Jeanette, but for me,
Jeanette worked for Harry Norman.
Okay.
I'm just gonna put it out there. Yes, she was.
Right,
I love Jeanette. She was great.
Right. But one of the things too is if you've told her specific things, like I had a buyer that told me she didn't want a staircase at the front of her house. Okay, so that meant that when she sent me houses, or when houses that met her certain criteria, 4 bedrooms, I had to make sure that staircase was in the middle of the house or the back of the house.
Okay.
So again, like and I don't know if that was as specific with Jeanette, but I'm saying like you can say, well, Raquel, I like that one from the outside, and I can say, no, remember, it doesn't have that.
Yeah.
And I'm using a very simple example.
I think everyone has different criteria. In mine, I tried not to be like that client that was just a huge pain in the butt, and they were like, no, the staircase is not in the middle, I wanted it 2 inches to the left. I tried not to be that person, so I was really general. I just wanted a good deal, which I felt was a good value with resale value in a good location. So that was really my main criteria, and I'm like, if it fits in there, if I think in a couple of years it'll be worth a lot more and it's in a good location, that's what I'm interested in. So I'll look at different size, a ranch, a townhouse. I'll look. I'm just looking for the best value, and that was kind of what I.
And one of the things that I like to recommend to people is I hear a lot of times too. Well, I'm waiting for my husband to come before I buy a house. I'm waiting to get married before I buy a house, and they're super single. Like,
yes.
It's not like they have a
right.
they're engaged.
Yeah.
So I always suggest like buy something. I mean, yes, we hope that special person is coming, but we don't know when they're coming.
You'll look a lot more attractive as a single person with property.
Exactly
without.
My point. Right. So that's what I'm saying. So again, make that investment, and and then don't be. And the second aspect to that is your first house does not have to be your forever home.
Yes.
And so many people, they're like, well, I had my one client and a close friend. She said, well, I want to live in the city of Atlanta. It needs to have a wraparound porch. It needs to have 4 bedrooms, a garage, and this, that, and the fourth.
And I have a budget of $99,000.
It wasn't quite as low as 99, but it was like 200,000. And if you've been paying attention to real estate in Atlanta, you're not going to get that in the city limits. Right. Now, I can get you a wraparound.
Yeah, if you drive out.
Right. Yeah. You can have it in the outskirts, but you don't want to live in the outskirts. So we're going to have to hone in.
We can get that condo on Peachtree Street.
Right. And that's exactly what she ended up with a townhome right on the belt line. And it's such a beautiful like story of where she went from what she filled out on her questionnaire and what she wanted to where we got her, because it just shows like just get something. And again, she ended up with a 1 bedroom, and quite frankly, sometimes 1 bedrooms are a little iffy, but quite frankly, in the city, that's a
you're gonna be able to resell.
Now again, a 1 bedroom in Duluth,
right?
No,
maybe
we
not
ain't gonna be buying no 1 bedroom in
Duluth. Yeah, that's actually
Tell us a little bit about if I am in a lease in an apartment and I'm ready to come out of my lease. My lease is over in December. is now a good time to start looking? And will I need to go month to month, do you think? Like, what's the time or turnaround process?
So it really depends on you and where you're at. So
Okay.
so again, let's go back to what I first recommended, that you reach out to that lender.
Okay.
If you're ready, then now is a good time to start for a December closing time frame, because you want to make sure that you have enough time to look for the property. You want to make sure you have enough time to get under contract, and typically, I would say expect between 30 and 45 days to close, but that's after you find the property. So again, I try to be very specific with my clients. So again, we can, okay, well, I want a townhome, a condo. I'm open. Okay, that's great that you're open, but it's going to take longer to find, and we're also up against a timeline. So we can,
because we're looking at everything.
We're looking at everything. So kind of hone in, like, what do you want? Do you want a single family? Do you want it to be a ranch? Do you want it to be a townhome? Do you want a condo? Do you know? And let's
so many options.
There's so many options, but let's hone in on exactly what you want, so that way I can try to deliver what you want. So we can only looking at what you want, so you don't start getting confused.
Okay.
And then we can be very specific in our search.
Because it's easy to fall in love with all of them.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. And then also looking at the livability and stuff like that. So we want to, as far as your question, yes, that for December, if your lease is up in December, definitely. But one thing to consider too, especially if you're in an apartment, is your first mortgage payment is not due until the month after. So let's say you close in December, your first mortgage payment will not be due until February.
Okay.
So that's something to consider too. So even if, let's say it's October, it's mid-October right now, you're very specific on what you want. We go out tomorrow, you find your house, you close in November, your first mortgage won't be due until January. So you don't necessarily have to close and move right away. You can close and kind of slowly move. You know, because sometimes if you're up against the wire, like the apartment complex, give me them keys, and
they're ready for you to go.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
That was my situation. When I got my house, I closed at 5 and I was moving by 7.
Yeah.
So I was ready to move in, and it was a good scenario. But yeah, that's a great story. I'm glad that you came to visit us. We thought about a couple more topics, but I think with you here,
we're closing it out in a minute, so we're gonna keep it real estate today.
Exactly.
But in the event that I've been denied in the past, let's say hypothetically, because Chapter 13 or Chapter 7 bankruptcy, can you give us some scenarios to encourage people? I mean, is it a hard no for them, or should they?
It's not a hard no. It may be a hard no if you applied for it yesterday. But.
Right.
Gotta give it a little time.
But if you give it a little bit of time, and again, talk to that lender, because I don't know all the regulations and what they're looking for, but I know that bankruptcy is not a scarlet letter on your credit that you will never own a home.
Right.
But they will take some time. They will want to make sure that things have been rectified, and that you are in a position to actually be able to afford this property.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
But in a nutshell, tell everyone how they can reach you again. And overall, do you have any specific pointers that you want to leave the listeners with?
If I can sum it back up as far as, again, your first home does not have to be your forever home. Get you something that works for you right now. Maybe you can grow a little bit, in that home. Again, if you're a single person, you're out trying to date, you may meet that person, you may have a child, be considerate of that, but also don't buy for that scenario, because we don't know. We want that for everybody, but it may not be their reality. Another thing too is, everything doesn't have to have the bells and whistles. Like,
get what you can afford, stay in your budget.
Again, your first home does not have to be your forever home. So, but buy something. Buy something. And then also, I would say again, if there's some people that are just, I love living in downtown, I know I can't afford downtown, you can still rent that apartment, but go buy an investment property
and rent it.
Rent it out, and you get an extra stream of income.
That's a great idea.
Are you hiring?
Yes, we are, again, as I mentioned, we are, or as you mentioned in the bio, we are a full service real estate brokerage, and we do have realtors on our team right now. We have 10 realtors operating
That's
under the
impressive.
Millennial brand.
Yeah.
So basically what that means is if anybody has their license or is interested in their license, they can place their license with Millennial and sell real estate through our brand.
Now tell us, or other realtors or real estate agents, I should say, the difference between going with an independent brokerage versus the national names. Do you think it's a huge difference, or?
We talked about that a little bit before the show, and that was something that came up. So yeah, give us your input on that.
I mean, obviously, the bigger brokerages, I won't name them just because
They're not exactly, no free advertising.
Exactly. But the bigger brokerages, I mean, they do have, I'll say more so resources on the realtor side than necessarily I mean, they may have more of an online presence for the buyer, but I mean, Millennial Properties can still get the job done.
Right.
The smallest brokerage, the brokerage with one, just the broker in-house can still get the job done. But I mean, really, they've just kind of built this brand, built this conglomerate, which is great for them, But a lot of times, especially, and it kind of leans back towards to are you hiring? They have a lot more fees. They have a lot more overhead that we don't have. It's very expensive to place your license with them.
So you're paying for that brand.
You're paying for their brand. And so where I come, the kind of perspective I give to people is if you know what you're doing, and I'm not saying that I still will coach you, even if you just get your license tomorrow. I will coach you as the broker to make sure that you know what to do when you get to the contract and showing houses and stuff like that. But if you want to go with those bigger firms to start, to get that training, that free, air quote, free training,
you don't get
then go with them. But then once you know what you're doing, air quotes, then go to the other brokerage that is not as expensive, doesn't have that higher overhead, because you can keep more in your pocket.
Yes.
And then it still goes back to building generational wealth.
Right.
Not just from the perspective of purchasing real estate, but from the perspective of selling real estate and representing people and getting those closing checks that can help you build generational wealth as well.
As someone that's worked on the backside of it, I have to say, go with the mom and pop, the millennial or whomever, because at the end of the day, it's overrated. It's completely, the fees that I would take out of those commission checks were unbelievable. Like, I would shake my head sometimes, and I had not once had one person call into our office and said, I had to have a RE/MAX agent.
You have to have brand name.
Or brand name, or Keller, or whomever. They were just like, oh, I drove by, or someone referred me, or so at the end of the day, guys, get a recommendation, or of course, listen to Hits 92.3 so that you can connect with Raquel. Leave them your information before we log off again, Raquel.
So on Instagram, it's at Millennial Properties Realty. On Facebook, it's at Millennial Properties, and our website is www.millennialpros.com.
All right, perfect.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure. We have to do this again. And you guys, I appreciate you all for listening. Again, you're tuned in to Hits 92.3, the real definition of internet radio.